Welcome to the Web3 podcast. I'm your host, Travis Rosser, and I'm so excited you're here to learn more about Web3 and how it's going to change your business. Welcome back to another Web3 show. Today I have Fernando and Greg on here, and we're going to talk about something really cool, something that I love, which is startups and like new companies, but in the Web3 space. So Fernando, Greg, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Travis. Hey, Greg. Pleasure to be here as always.
It's good to have everybody back. We're going to have a lot of different minds here, which I think will come up with some cool stuff. We all have different angles on how we think about it. So this will be fun. Like I said, we're going to talk about startups in Web3. I have a couple that are brand new. I saw you guys already sent some over, but then I have a couple that are a little bit more established that I don't necessarily understand what they're doing. So I'm glad Greg's here, and for now, you guys can help me. But yeah, let's start sharing. What are some of the cool new ones? Like you guys sent one over. Fernando, why don't you go first? What are some of the ones you saw?
Actually, I saw a couple of them, but this one specifically kind of got my attention from the very headline of it. It's called Poco. It's actually a startup that is already working and getting some users in. And the premise that they offer is just to, instead of creating an LLC for your company, you can actually create a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, using Web3 as the backend of it. But that type of organization would be wrapped in a legal manner, so you would be able to operate and do your tax presentations and kind of manage your whole company, but through a Web3 mechanism. I thought it was fantastic, to be honest.
That's pretty cool. So it like literally like creates you attach your operating agreement to the DAO organization. That's really cool.
Yeah, it ties so well with the discussions we had a few weeks ago on DAOs. We were talking about that.
Yeah, I think the thing about a DAO that I'm always afraid of is I would want to, not that I want to limit the power of the whole organization, but I want to make sure it couldn't get hijacked or it couldn't get like just derailed by everybody, which I think that's why DAOs are so cool. But I don't know, maybe just being an entrepreneur myself, I like to keep control of my creative vision. But at the same time, I would love to have people involved with investing and being able to benefit from the success and feedback. But it's like, I feel like there's still this balance. Maybe I need to set one up and try it, because I know it has to do with the votes too, or like the amount of tokens you have, that's how many votes you have, which is how a lot of organizations work anyways. If you have more shares, you have more votes. But
yeah, that on the operative side of things, I think it kind of makes sense. But for what I saw in the details is that the whole system for example, creating invoices, sending out payments, and just managing proposals, it kind of takes it more on the actual daily type of tasks, and not so much on the decision making on the big scheme of things, So it was quite interesting, at least to check it out and try it out. Who knows?
It's pretty awesome. It comes with like a whole admin. It's poco.fund, so POKO.fund. And I'm looking at the site right now. It comes with a whole admin too, which I think is kind of cool. I always like those kind of things. So I got to dive into one of these and test it out like on a small scale, make some small DAO that works and bring in some trusted friends and test it out, because I don't know, it's cool. It sounds awesome. I don't know why I'm so afraid of it. It's probably because I've never done something like this, but
the skepticism of Web3,
Yeah, that's true. I guess because there's just so many random stories of things happening. So I don't know. All right, what else we got? Greg, what tell me a startup you've seen.
So the one I found, it popped out on my feed a couple of days ago. It's called Join Fire, and it's basically a wallet that replaces MetaMask.
Oh, nice.
And the idea is, using MetaMask is almost a muscle memory. When you log in, you don't even look anymore. You just click accept. When you mint, you don't even look anymore as well. You just click accept. You see money going one way to the other. You don't really pay attention.
It's true.
And they don't do a good job at telling you what you're actually doing in MetaMask. And that's what this wallet is solving. Like it simulates the transaction that you're about to do. So if you're about to mint, it tells you, oh, you're about to mint a token on this contract. Is that really what you want to do? Or when you log in, it does the same thing. So the idea is to have just a safer environment when you're interacting and logging in on websites with your wallet, basically.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the attacks that you see, I think it's just people are so used to it. As I said, muscle memory, they just accept it without looking. And when you do that, you can give away control of the NFT that you own, and that's how people lose their funds or NFTs. So that's the idea.
Yeah, because it comes across as if you're just accepting a quick, user terms and agreement that we all like don't even read. And I've clicked things and I'm like, oh crap, is that gonna like did I just give something away or did I just give access? Because I've told this story, but I've already done that once where I signed up for something. I created a wallet, I put money into it. It's supposed to be this investment thing. I won't share what company it is because I don't want to badmouth them because I think it was user error. I messed up. I didn't keep the phrase. I thought I kept the phrase. And then when I went back, it's gone. Like I cannot get back to that. That is literally out in the vapor. And I know like with MetaMask is great because I do have like forgot password. I can at least do that. But this whole wallets can be pretty scary because you get that long phrase and first of all, where should you keep it safely? And then what if you screw something up like that's taken some time for me to get used to that. I have enough trouble keeping track of passwords, but a 10-word phrase or whatever it is, like, I don't know. I wonder, I think Fernando, we talked about this on the last podcast about how much money is out in the blockchain that's just out there, and inaccessible. That's kind of a weird phenomenon. All right. So this last one we just talked about was on joinfire.xyz. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Couple of the ones I have are based on creatives. The first one is royal.io. And Fernando, did I mention this on the last podcast? I can't remember if I did. Did I?
Kind of rings a bell, to be honest.
Maybe I talked about it after we stopped recording. So if you're listening to this, I apologize. I'm talking about it again, but I love this idea of an artist can post, like especially like a music artist can post like I'm working on this album, and you can support them and then buy into it and actually benefit from the proceeds. And I personally love that because that's going to be over on when we get to new startup ideas, like as a business, wouldn't it be cool if you could do this? I don't think you legally can do this because you can't collect investment money unless you follow the correct procedures or whatever. There's things you can do, like friends and family can invest, but like you can't go to the public and just say, give me 10 grand and you get 10 shares of my company without doing all the correct legal things. But these guys found a way to do it easily with music. It would be so cool. We'll wait till we get there, but to do that in the business world too, like no matter what kind of business it is. So, but I think this one is really great. Another one that I just saw is Web3 auth.io. I don't understand it, but I think it's kind of like the thing Fernando I was mentioning where what if you could take Zapier and the wallet and put them together? This is an idea I've had, Greg, where the wallet can do a lot of things, but like what if you could plug it into other things it did when that wallet was visible? And I think that's what this does. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but if you go to web3auth.io, it's kind of a cool little wallet system thing. It might be doing what I think, but again, I don't understand it enough, but I don't know. It's kind of cool.
For what I saw on a very, first glimpse of it, it looks kind of like a Web3 multi-solution type of organization. However, a focus is being put in the authentications of users and user management, taking wallets as the way of tracking users. And it looks pretty cool, to be honest. I'm looking at it as we speak.
It's a great site. They have it branded really well. It's very clean.
Yeah, the landing page is very nice. I would need to look into it to better understand what they actually do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, you guys got any other ones?
Yeah, a couple of them. Actually, there's one that is, I believe, is fairly known across the industry, which is Ethereum. What's it called? The Ethereum name server, the ENS. Yeah, I thought
I
you knew
have that
it.
on my list too. I have that on. I was going to say that that's more of a bigger one.
It's a
That
bigger one. It's one of the one of the first startups in Web3 to actually gain momentum and kind of become mainstream. I don't know,
mhm.
like for those people who don't know, actually it's a way of rephrasing your wallet address into something more readable, human eye readable instead of that long code with an alphanumeric characters. You could just put your name like Travis.eth, Greg.eth, and whatnot. I think it's quite a. It's just that in my mind, any project that actually solves the utility of Web3 applications in a more human, simple way, I mean, it automatically gains a spot on the top 10, type of applications, right?
Yeah.
Eh, If it
I,
makes things easier and your life easier, then it's worth it.
yeah, totally. In fact, I have that on my list also because I have questions about this because I went and set up, I think I did .ens, maybe it was .eth. I went and I couldn't buy Travis. That wasn't available. I was bummed. But I did get another name. And that's the other thing too is what do you do with this? So I connected it to my wallet. So it's my way of sharing my wallet with someone else, right? Like easily saying, here's my wallet instead of that long old hashed, thing that it is.
I think so. I think it solves what domains are. Instead of typing the IP of Google to get to their website, you type the name google.com. It's the same idea.
Okay.
Instead
So
of typing your entire 20-ish character, you just type travis.eth to get to your wallet.
which we're not representing that in any way because that's not mine. I don't know
Yeah.
whose that is. But and so it's not like you can build a website and then use that domain. Not that it's a domain. Like I've been very confused because I'm so web 2 and old school, like where I used to buy and I still do buy domains at like GoDaddy all the time. If I have a business idea, I mean, Greg and I were always talking about like, let me buy this domain or whatever. So it really is in the new Web3 world. Is is there any danger with someone seeing your wallet in public? Not really, right? It's just going to show all the public transactions you've had on the blockchain. Is that how it works? Or someone could pay you if they knew that also?
So a wallet is public.
Okay. It already is public anyways. Yeah. Someone
Yeah.
could find it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you couldn't build like some website on it. It's just going to point to something on the blockchain. Is that kind of the idea behind these new?
Mm, you're at the moment, I think you're correct. Yes.
Okay.
What I'm thinking is maybe you could buy an ENS address that maps to a contract address rather than a wallet, and maybe
So it really
it does
is,
something else. I'm
you're
not
connecting to
sure.
something that's out on the blockchain in some way, some smart contract or a wallet or something like that. That's kind of the idea, which
Yeah.
again, there's probably so many use cases that are going to happen that we can't even imagine right now. It's so new that it's like hard for my head to wrap around it really, besides the wallet concept. That part makes total sense, but very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that on my list. Any other established ones are cool. I know I like to focus on startups, but what are some of the new big ones? Because we're
I
going to
think
jump to my favorite in a minute,
all
but
the infra Web3 companies, it's ones we use. We use them all the time, like Alchemy, Infura, Morales, QuickNode. Those are like the AWS
okay.
companies for blockchain. So they live between the blockchain and the developers basically, and they build APIs, infrastructure for application developers basically to interact with blockchains or NFTs. Those are big.
Those are cool. It's interesting because I have so many questions. Because again, I come from a Web 2 world. Everything was on the cloud, AWS. But now that we're on the blockchain, there are companies that are specifically creating a service for you. That's what these are. Like I have alchemy.com up. They actually do this kind of the same thing. So a developer can use these to connect storage, connect everything that is out there.
Yeah, it's like a simpler way to query data that lives on the blockchain. That's what it is basically.
Interesting.
Make things easier for developers to build applications.
So this is a question that I wanted to ask you on one of the other podcasts. Like, the blockchain is so crazy that everything is out there, like everything is stored everywhere. Is it kind of like back when we had Napster and like peer-to-peer stuff like that, where people or companies like say, yes, I'm going to store, or like it's part of these different tokens, right? You earn a token if you're storing things for the blockchain. Is that how it works? Like, how does the actual infrastructure work of the blockchain? Like AWS, it's Amazon, it's a bunch of their cloud servers, but in the blockchain world, because it has to be somewhere there's servers of some kind, but what's the lame man or the not so smart person's version of that?
So I'm not an expert there on how technically how everything works, but it's the same as idea as peer-to-peer, where they are
Mm-hmm.
computers, farms of computer that run the Ethereum network on those computers, and they're all connected together.
Mm-hmm.
And the data is spread across all those nodes, and a node is a computer, for example. And when you make a transaction, you pay gas. So there's a gas transaction that you pay. So the fee actually goes to those people that run the nodes. And that's how they make money, basically. So that's the incentive for them to run those computers.
So can like an individual just set up a series of servers and be like, yeah, I'm going to be part of this, and now I'm going to earn part of the gas fee? Is that kind of
I would
possible?
not suggest that. I would not just suggest that at all, because I believe when this podcast is going to come out, Ethereum is going to do the first migration of their infrastructure, right? Because so far, the main blockchains out there, they've been working on a proof of work basis, which is basically what just Greg said. It's just a bunch of computers interconnected, and they all have the same copy of the blockchain, and that consists of having a middleman that is an expensive middleman, because running a cryptocurrency rig and just mining blocks, it's an expensive and energy consuming endeavor. And they're actually going to migrate to a proof of stake type of model in which transactions are validated by stakeholders, as to say. And that's it's gonna increase the speed of the network by who knows how much, but probably a lot. And transactions are gonna be much faster. And the whole ecosystem is gonna be more effective. But at the same time, we have to see how that's gonna come along, right? But we are right in the midst of a industry change. Yeah.
Is that what's happening right now? That's like the merge thing that's happening right now as we speak. It's like September 9th. So that's happening right now.
To add more details, I think the merge, what it's doing is doing what Fernando just said. And the difference is the energy consumption. So the computational power needed is divided by like 99.9% or something like that. So for the economy, the ecology or the environment, yes, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
For the speed of transaction, maybe I don't remember, but it's not reducing the gas fees, for example. So that's going to be with another migration that happens later. I don't think there's even a timeline for that.
Okay. Very cool. Well, on that note of like third-party services, I am fascinated by how images are stored. And I've mentioned this before, the Pinata company that kind of does the media storage. I love this idea of this business. Like, not that we need to do anything that they're doing, but I love that it's such the early stages of how images are going to be handled on the blockchain. And like, it reminds me of when we first built websites and you had to FTP everything. Like, you had to have an FTP app and you had to upload everything. And then you got to Amazon, then you got to GitHub, and you got to all these other services. I see this evolving a lot, where how we store media, where it goes, is going to be really interesting.
One note on Pinata. We were using them, and we actually transitioned. I won't say why, but I'm just going to name alternatives if people need them.
Totally, give me some alternatives. I'm going to look them up while you're talking.
Free ones are NFT storage, so NFT.storage or Web3.storage. They're the same company.
Okay.
They're free for now. They probably won't be free forever. The other one is Filebase, I think .com. It's really similar to Pinata. It's a lot cheaper. And for developer, they have something interesting is that their API is compatible with S3. So it's an S3, they follow the S3 standard.
Okay.
So you can store and retrieve files as if they were on S3, but they're on IPFS. So it makes adoption for developer a lot easier than others, for example.
Yeah, the Firebase looks a little more mature than the NFT storage.
Filebase.
Filebase, sorry. Filebase, you're correct. That Firebase is something totally different.
Yeah.
Filebase.com. I'm looking at it. Looks really interesting. See, this is what I mean. There's so much new opportunities in this space for just because so much media is usually attached to something on the smart contract, whether it's like we were talking about this thing of the DAO plus a legal wrapper. Well, is that a document somewhere that also can be seen? Then that has to be stored somewhere. Like eventually, like one of the other startups I didn't mention is called Proppy, where they're trying to put NFTs to property. Like, well, somewhere there needs to be a contract. And is that a document or is it digital? I mean, most likely, I think they like them to be documents that have been signed and now can't be altered in any way versus something that's on the web. So I think there's going to be a lot of new startups in this space, and there's cool opportunities where someone could just make one small little tweak and all of a sudden, boom, there's a whole new service that could be created. And I love that stuff. So very cool. All right, let's transition over to my favorite new startup, which is OneMint. That's why we have this podcast. That's how I met Greg. You've been on this journey where you saw something, you were inspired, and you just went for it. I know we've done a whole episode and you told your whole story, but like, why don't we start with when you first did this? Like, what did you have to do to make the jump? I know you had been a programmer forever, but you didn't know smart contracts. You didn't know anything. Like, how did you even get started? Did you just like dive into the whole space and test it out and trial and error? And you made NFT generator. That was your first version of the company, really.
Yeah, I mean, the first step was the generator itself, and there's really no Web3 component or blockchain components that came a lot later. And one thing I'm really good at is learning new things fairly quickly. So after I had the generator, I knew I had to build the next step. I knew nothing about Web3, MetaMask, blockchain, Ethereum, anything like that. So I just went for it, learned about it, built stuff, failed, build again, failed until it's good enough. And then you build a product around it.
It's so awesome. And we're coming on to right about a year when you first kind of launched it. And I can't remember when I first met you. It was probably the fall last year, the end of the year, maybe. Or it might have been the first
October or November.
Yeah, I think
like
that's
that.
about what it was. And I was already blown away. I was like, wow, you're already having success. And I was on that same journey of seeing how people had built stuff and it was just code. Like nobody had put an interface on it. So after this, I want to talk about startup ideas because that's what you did. You had an idea, you went for it, you rolled up your sleeves, and it blew up. And here we are today where you guys have rebranded. You're now OneMint. You have this cool dynamic NFT builder, creator, and marketplace. Like, tell me more about that. Like, give me the elevator pitch and let's maybe think of some possible use cases and like kind of tell us. So it could be either one of you. I know both of you are very entrenched in this project. So
yeah. So I think it was a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, we were looking at our product and what we should focus on next. So we looked at the landscape of other companies building stuff around Web3 smart contracts. And we're looking at it, trying to find ideas to see what can we do. And then I realized we shouldn't be looking outward. We should be looking inward and look at what makes us special. What do we have that others do not? And what made us special is the ability to generate NFTs. And we have when you build your collection, we have data about the layers, which layers go together, which files go together, and all those things. And no one else has this data, only us do. And then we try to brainstorm around ideas around that. What can we do that no one can do, and that's going to be cool, and there's a real use case. And that's when we thought about dynamic NFT. So the ability to have an NFT that can be customizable, basically. So that was the initial idea. And the use case there are so many use cases. Like the no-brainer use case is like a video game. Think GTA, when you first launched the game, you're in your building character mode where you have no clothes, and you drag and drop your t-shirts, pants, and so on. So we map this idea with NFTs, basically. And then as you evolve in the game, or whatever type of games they build, they unlock new traits to customize their character. So gaming is one use case. Other use cases are the traditional PFPs. It's the same idea. People launch their initial connection. They want to launch the second version, or they want to reward their users with special traits. Then they can do that using our technology and dynamic NFTs. So I think we're just scratching the surface. I think what I'm most excited about is launching and see what people build with it.
Exactly.
That's where I want us to get to.
Yeah, you just build the tool. You definitely have use cases in mind, and then go let them play with it and see what happens. Fernando, what's your take on 1Mint, on what you see, maybe possible use cases that Greg didn't mention? Just
Oh man, the sky is the limit out there. I mean, just to kind of like wrap around the idea of the dynamism starts with a base token, right? A base NFT, right? And that could be basically virtually anything you want, whether a character or a piece of land or whatnot, or a pass like our upcoming team pass and community pass that is gonna allow users that use our platform to have special benefits and exclusive insights. You could virtually get any standard token and upgrade it. The dynamism comes with the upgradability of it, that you can change it, you can add things, you can delete things. It's kind of like making a crude operation if we were to use programming language into an NFT. Not quite, but kind of, considering the blockchain like immutability detail. But I guess the sky is the limit, because if you think about maybe even like a football game, right? And you have your football ticket for that is valid for the whole year, right? That's your NFT, and this ticket only allows you to go to we call it La Popular, the very base section of the stadium, but maybe you want to upgrade it. So there you go with the dynamism. You get to keep your own NFT, but if you add an add-on or a special trade to it, that's going to give you other functionalities. And of course, man, we can keep on talking about so many things, because we're already seeing projects that want to use the technology to allow users to, based on how many trades they have, they will give these users a certain type of rewards or benefits. So I think just like Greg said, it's going to be a matter of time after we launch, when we see the creativity of the audience and the people out there, just to start playing around with it. I mean, you should drop by our Discord server. The projects that they're creating, they're just absolutely fantastic. The artwork, the storytelling behind it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
You guys will have to give me an account. I'll have to go in there and play around a little bit, because I like those last examples of the business application. Because I mean, the no-brainers are artwork. Like, we interviewed this Lawrence Mann with his alien network that he's doing, video games for sure, but additional things that, like, for a business, maybe you give them this cool NFT card, and then if they do these actions, then it gets upgraded to this. Like, so many cool things. Like, I don't want to dive too much into the technical part of it, but like, historically an NFT is minted and now it's this thing forever. And I remember when I was like brainstorming back and forth with you, Greg, we were talking about that. Like, does the old contract get burnt? Like what happens? Like as I add this new, whatever, I purchase it. Now my NFT is now this. Is it reminted again? And then the old one is burnt? Is that kind of how it works? Or
So I'll explain, but I really like the idea you just shared about gamifying experiences
oh
as
yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a real use case as well. It
Yeah.
works really well. So to go on high level on the technology, you don't burn NFTs. You actually mint new NFTs. So each trade is an NFT.
Okay.
And then when you want to like update your character, there's a registry contract that sits in between the two contracts. So the mapping information is stored on another contract. And then our software, we look at those transactions between the contracts. And when transaction happens, we regenerate the metadata in the image.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how it works.
And then you do all the magic behind the scenes to make it flawless on the front, which is really cool. And no one else is doing this right now. You guys are the ones that kind of have figured this out. Like,
yeah, I mean, people have talked about it. I mean, Doodles talked about it at NYC NFT, I think a couple months ago.
Okay.
But it's not been released. There's a big collection that launched last week called Utes. And they talked about it, but then they dropped it.
Well, I think
that's a recurring theme. A lot of people talk about it and never do it.
Well, yeah,
but the reason is the engineering effort required to build it is huge.
Yeah,
and they don't have the resources and expertise to do it, basically.
Well, and we've seen a lot of NFT collections do some dynamic things, but again, it's because they hired a whole bunch of programmers. What you guys are doing is completely different because you're removing all the technical hurdles and headaches and allowing the creative or the business owner or the artist to do it. Like that's what's cool. Because some of these other collections, I mean, maybe I'm off, but isn't it similar to like when you can breed two different NFTs and then this new NFT happen? It's kind of similar where it is kind of like it changes, but yours is way more
dynamic,
customizable, like the real experience you actually would expect. The other one's just more of like these two things happen and then boom, that happens. Like that's the closest thing I've seen to it.
What you're referring to is breeding. Yeah, you take two and then it makes a new one, but the new one is not like it's a new NFT that's being minted. It's not the original one that's changing.
Interesting. Yeah, that now all the dots are connecting in my head now. And it also, you have a marketplace. Tell me about the marketplace. How will that work? Will you have one big marketplace? Can a collector have their own marketplace?
So there will be one public marketplace where creators can apply to join. Currently, it's going to be in private access.
Okay.
But the marketplace itself is going to be public. All collections are going to be shared. All collection will have their own collection, their own page. Think OpenSea. It's going to be similar to OpenSea. It's going to be an NFT marketplace, except the user experience is tailored for dynamic NFTs, like looking at all the traits, checking the traits that are compatible with my NFTs, which one are the rare ones, not the rare ones. And then there's the UX to actually look at the NFT that you own and click on the traits that you want to buy. So it automatically previews the new NFT before you actually purchase it. So there's that whole experience as well that's tailored for those use cases.
That's a whole new experience. No one's done that. So it's like OpenSea seems old school now. And they're part of these new Web3 companies. So like an actual collection, they get their own, they could be part of the whole marketplace, but they might have their own area, if you will. Is that kind of how it would work?
Yeah, they'll have their own collection page. And you asked about a white label version. We're building a white label version as well, but that's like more for brands and companies rather than individual creators or artists.
Yeah, because individual creators would want to be part of the greater marketplace anyways. Is how you get discovered. But like in like GTA, they'd want that to be part of maybe their experience. Like, will you do more of an API where you're more behind the scenes and you're integrated into their system? Is that kind of the plan, or?
I think it's going to be the other way around, where they'll integrate with ours, but they'll embed it in their website or game or experience, and then they can build around it.
Interesting. Because like I said, I can see so many business uses where whatever the business is, you reward the user for doing more things, buying more products, referring people, loyalty, and then that NFT keeps getting customized every time that happens. Or you can even purchase things that gives you more access, kind of like how you can earn miles on your credit card for American Airlines or whatever, or you could buy miles. Like, I could see people doing that with all kinds of different businesses. And like you said, if you have a way to embed it over on their site, then that works just as good too. So
yeah, there's going to be like two flows. So the first flow is people choose what they want to put on their NFT, but you can do it programmatically as well. As you said, if your user reach this level, you can automatically airdrop the NFT to them and equip it on their base NFT automatically, and they don't have to do anything.
It's very cool. Where are you guys at with launching it? When is it going to be available? Like, when can people go test this out? I know you can go to whenmint.com, and I think you can see it right in the menu. I don't know the exact /URL, but it's easy to find. And I'm dying because it's been teased for a while. I want to see it working.
Yeah, me too.
And I know what that's like when you're building something. Sometimes it takes time.
We're launching the Genesis collection, so our own collection to showcase the technology. Is it next week? Maybe end of next week.
End of next week, yeah.
Yeah, so that's when this episode will come out. It'll come out during that week. So if you hear that, make sure you go to 1 Mint, look for the Genesis collection, the dynamic NFTs, for sure. And then how can a artist or a business person or someone get in on that? There's a way to go in there and request to be part of this first group, or
if you go to onemint.io/dynamic NFT, you're gonna get the small form where you can just place your information, your project information, and then we'll definitely reach out.
Awesome. This is gonna be cool. I can't wait to see this. This is exciting. It's been really cool to watch you on your journey, Greg, and seeing the team you built with Fernando and all the cool developers. It's so cool. So good stuff coming. All right. That's obviously my favorite Web3 startup, but let's get to, we'll kind of wrap up this episode with new startup ideas. Like, Greg's dropped a couple on here before. I know Fernando and I talked about one. I think we did it after the podcast. I don't think we did it on the podcast. We might have.
I think we ended up going into the rabbit hole there. It was nice.
No, I know. And that's why I was like, we got to return to this. That's why let's do a startup, new stuff. Maybe it'll inspire someone. I know we're going to give away some free ideas right now. So if you are able to be like Greg and self-teach and hustle, go for it. I always say ideas are great, but execution is where the real money is. You got to actually build it and do it. So who wants to go first? Who's got an idea ready popping? Fernando, you want to go with yours? Okay, go ahead, Greg.
It's actually an idea Fernando and I had together, I think yesterday or the day before. So it's not an idea, it's looking at a problem and applying a solution to it.
Those are my favorite.
So we use a platform called remote.com to employ and hire people around the world. And when I pay Fernando or other employees that are not in the US, it literally takes a week and a half for Fernando to get paid before I click the button.
And it's an adventure, basically.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If you build like an HR platform similar to remote.com, but you pay your employees with fiat currency, then they get paid in 3 seconds versus a week and a half. That's what crypto is. Like,
that's
changing value with no borders. It's instantaneous. So
Interesting.
it does feel like a good idea.
It does seem like a good idea because, man, I have international teams too, and I don't know why it's still so complicated. Like all the services I've tried to use, like I think Wise is the current one I use mostly, but even that has hiccups and complications. But to have, and then with a fiat currency, you're not going to get penalized as much, are you, with exchange rate? Because it's worth what it's worth, right? And then you decide on my contract, I'm paying you this much in this currency, and then through that you can convert it to Bitcoin probably, or just transfer it right to your bank, and you could even, in the cash at that moment. That is interesting. Have any of the excuse me, the big like the PayPals, have they tried to create a fiat currency that would be there, you know what I mean, where when you pay it, then it could sit in that? Has anybody done that?
There are a couple of projects like, well, you can take a look at Ripple or XRP's blockchain, right? That they've already been implementing blockchain solutions for international banking operations. We're talking about big numbers, right? Just because of the quickness of it, and the how secure actually transactions can be. There are some players already that are implementing.
Isn't XRP like, didn't they get kicked off of Coinbase, and like they're kind of, I don't know why, but I know they always talk about it all the time, but I like have trouble figuring out a place I can actually buy XRP.
I believe you can
they're investigated by the SEC. So they got kicked off Coinbase and so on. So you can't buy it, at least on an US exchange. I don't know why, but
I don't know why either. I've tried to look it up, but then I always hear great things about what they're doing. I'm like, well, why can't you get in on that? It's so strange. That's why some of my ideas, I'm so afraid this would happen to the idea, because even though we're decentralized and no one has control, you still live in countries where they still have a lot of control. Like no matter what we think, they still have pretty much total control if they want to. So anyways, let's go back to the idea. That is a great idea. I think as we're more global, and like I said, exchange rate and transferring money, it kind of came up, Fernando, when we were talking about GameFi and how is like all of a sudden across the world people could make this money. Then all of a sudden across the world you could easily exchange money for whatever reason. I think HRs, obviously, we're in that business, that remote business, and paying people can be difficult, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, I guess anything that can just solve out the usability issue of the Web3 is going to end up being a great idea. So basically any Web2 application that gets brought into the Web3 space. For example, I actually thought the other day, and I believe it was yesterday that I found an article. It was called the Hive Network, was it?
Oh, yeah.
I have something. No, the Hive Mapper. I actually have it written down here.
Yep. I came across that one too, but go ahead. You talk about it. I barely looked at it, so I want to hear what you think.
It's amazing. They're actually kind of like replicating Google Maps, just storing images on IPFS in a decentralized way, and they actually give out incentives for users that participate in the program, and they go out there and actually film streetwise. They film basically everything, take pictures, and they get rewarded with their own honey token, I believe it was, and then you start to see this Web3 adoption to Web2 standard applications, and that's when it gets interesting, right? Because it's just using the power of the blockchain that by the end of the day, I think there's going to be a point in the industry where all the speculation of cryptocurrencies and the whole like funky looking Web3 scheme, Ponzi scheme side of things that luckily every month, every week, every day we see less and less of that going on. But there's going to be a point that speculation is going to be out of the equation, and it's all going to be usability, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Hive Mapper, it's cool. That I think you have to order it, but you get a dash cam, and as you're driving, it's capturing the Google Map experience. Here's an idea for a new startup: is giving someone not like the glasses or whatever, but something to where the human is capturing, and then like you go to like a soccer match or you go to like a concert, and then all the people's experiences are captured, and then it goes into this system. That would be a cool startup in some way, and you would earn tokens for how much your stuff got viewed or whatever. You know,
And it
that
would be the beginning of Skynet, right? Yeah.
that's true. That's very true. All right, let's I'm going to share this one with you, Fernando, because I love your idea of like funding, kind of like, what did you call it? It was like a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter with
Yeah.
tokens like NFTs behind it. Like, explain that idea, because I love that idea.
There are a couple of projects out there that are kind of doing something similar, but just to give creators and brands the ability of just being able to raise capital and raise funds for their projects. I mean, crypto is the perfect instrument for that, because just like, like Greg mentioned just recently, you would be able to, make payments and give out payments and basically transact immediately without the hustle of all the paperwork and thousands and hundreds of approvals, with the blockchain backed system. Like all of these type of fundraising applications actually sounds like a great way of
Yeah.
giving value to creators, brands, and influencers overall. I guess there's a whole niche right there.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm just thinking of this right as we speak. Have you heard about this? I think it was FundMe, but it was kind of like a micro loan type of
Yes.
system,
Yeah, I can't
right?
remember what that was. Yeah, it was like especially like third world countries, people could, I need $50 to buy a cow, and then you could fund it and you could help
Yeah,
that farmer or that family. That's a cool idea. I cannot remember what it's called, but yeah, that would
yeah.
be a good way to do it. I think any of these ideas, someone could be like, I'm gonna go build the dash cam for concerts, and anybody who buys this token is gonna get a free camera. Anybody who buys this token is gonna get 1% of the royalties or whatever. That would be cool. And it is kind of like what was so awesome about Kickstarter is like, I invented this ice chest that has a satellite phone and a TV and a microwave, and you pay me $1,000 and you get the first one plus a signed T-shirt or whatever. But you could also attach that comes with an NFT that you could keep using the benefits and utility, or maybe one day you could sell that NFT to someone else and now they have access to the first ever whatever. Like, I love that idea. All right, here's one of my random ideas. Where's my notes? What if you could take, and every photo you took, you could instantly turn it into an NFT and it can go into some kind of marketplace. And if people viewed it or chose to buy it, you could make money. Kind of like
Kodak.
Yeah. Is that kind of what Kodak's doing? Is that, we talked about that on the last episode?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. It's pretty neat. You can just upload the picture and it automatically creates it as an NFT.
Yeah.
And I think I love all of these ideas. I just want to see the time and the initiatives of the big kind of corporation, big players to actually allow users that come from a non-tech background to start to use all of this technology.
Yeah.
The only problem I see is that we still have a kind of like a long way to go with user experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just the fear of wallets. Like, I don't see my parents that are in their 80s connecting a wallet. They don't even own any cryptocurrency. Like, adoption rate is going to be a little bit of a problem, but also it creates new startups. Someone needs to create a better wallet that's more secure and easier. And I think maybe MetaMask and the ones that are there will probably fix that themselves. But my idea for the photo thing was creating a social network. Photos, it's basically Instagram. But what if you could, as a creator, get paid directly, a very transparent way? But also, what if you did want to buy, Kim Kardashian, a photo of her at the pool? You own that as an NFT. Like, why not? That would be pretty interesting. It might still be on her profile, but now it's owned by Travis, or whatever. And then someone else is like, oh my God, I want to buy that. Like, I could see those companies implementing that. Like, I know Kodak has the technology, but does it dump into a marketplace, or where does it go? And do you have to have a Kodak thing, or is it like, I see this as an app?
It's like an actual platform. It's a bit different on what you're saying, though. What you're saying actually sounds really fun. I can see already people crazing.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a great idea.
And that's gonna change the rules of the creators economy.
I think, well, and maybe Kodak can contact us and pay us millions of dollars, and we will build it for them. But it really is the beginning of the promise of Web3. Really, of this is your data, this is your content. Facebook's not making the money anymore. Of course, this network would take some of that profit because then it pays for everything that has to do with that. But it really puts a ton of power into the creators, into the creatives, or into the random kid that eats corn and all of a sudden is so popular. Like now he could sell that first video, or I don't know. I think that's the future for a lot of the existing social medias, but it also could be a brand new. Like I remember when Instagram first came out, I loved it just so I could like tweak my pictures. A lot of time I would just do that and save them
Me too.
locally. I didn't even like share them. That didn't happen for me for years. Like, but to be able to tweak them and like do like tilt shift and a little bit of vignette, and all of a sudden this cool picture of a fire hydrant looks like a piece of artwork. I'm like, how did I do that? That to me was so cool. Like, it would be awesome to take a photo of something so unique, or you see some random UFO, you post it, and it's just part of the experience. You know, maybe you can even use your tokens that you've been earning to buy something, or maybe it's all in its own world where it's just a very natural thing. You're not pulling out a credit card all the time. You're just involved in this space. And the more you're involved, you could benefit from it, either as a creator or someone that just has a good eye and knows how to flip and resell this content. Like there's a lot of, it's abstract right now, but there's a good idea there somewhere. So
Yeah, I love the idea about onboarding that was mentioned by both of you. I think the best one right now, I mean, the one that people can trust is Coinbase. It's because it's a big brand, but it's like a financial service. So not everyone has investment in crypto. So it's only crypto people knowledgeable in crypto that are there and trust Coinbase. To me, the wallet should be owned by Google or Meta, because I mean, I don't know if I should, but I feel the adoption would be massive if they supported it.
Imagine if, and they're probably already doing this, like, and I don't use it very much, but I do have a credit card, like Apple Pay on your phone. Like, what if it had NFTs and everything that's Web3 connected to it? Why wouldn't it? You know, why couldn't I just say, this is, my set of MetaMask, I click and I add my existing, like you said, big, that I could use a credit card to buy that NFT, or I could, like, that's the thing that I think is strange, how you have to go have a certain currency sometimes to interact with this certain thing. But couldn't you just be like, hey, use your credit card, and then the technology will transfer it and do all the things for you? And even Stripe is starting to have that kind of stuff. I've seen some cool things they're building where you could do things like that. But yeah, you're right. It needs to be easier and more. It's too much. You're in the space, you know, crypto. That's why you're at Coinbase, because you want to buy a Bitcoin, you know, versus someone who already has that existing wallet. Like, oh, this is cool. I didn't even know I could do that, you know. That's where the big adoption will happen, where it integrates with something that you're already using anyways. You don't have to learn something new. You already know the behaviors to keep yourself safe, you know. I think that's part of the evolution of business too, is not only just putting better user interface, better experience, or solving problems, but just adoption. Like, how do you get adoption? And the way you do it is it becomes part of people's habits, you know, it's part of their daily life and things they're used to. And if you can have like you just remove that barrier, boom, all of a sudden you've got 100 million people that are now buying Bitcoin or whatever, or now buying NFTs because now it's part of their Apple Wallet or whatever it is. That's when it's like, my wife doesn't have a wallet, but she has bought some crypto. I don't remember which one she has. Even on Robinhood, my son has like $500 of crypto. It's gone up and down, but I mean, stuff like that's a good adoption, is putting it into like, oh, here's all investments. But like you said, not everybody's an investor that should be involved in this stuff, you know? So, very cool. This has been good. These are my favorite kind of episodes. So this has been awesome. You guys got any parting thoughts about any of this stuff before we close this up?
For me, it's all good. I
All
mean,
right.
keep on going on the rabbit hole as always.
I know, and I cannot wait to see like what you guys are doing. I know that's coming up, so that's going to be pretty cool. We'll do some follow up in the coming months. We'll have some more customers on here telling their stories. I can't wait to hear what they're doing. So this has been awesome. Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you on the next episode. This episode of the Web3 Show is brought to you by 1Mint. Make sure you visit onemint.io to see all the amazing technology they're developing.